The fact that the Mortal Kombat series even exists blows my dumb little fat girl brain at least twice a day every single day. And the fact that I even get to exist at the same point in time as the Mortal Kombat series is just the biggest goddamn blessing that the good Lord has ever given to me. The year was 1992, and Street Fighter II was the only video game that actually existed. Midway sees the massive success and devises the first ever Mortal Kombat game to be a direct competitor to Street Fighter II. And it was supposed to star Jean-Claude Van Damme. They even got as far as designing his character until Jean-Claude Van Damme died in a tragic skiing accident at the Heavenly Mountain Ski Resort in South Lake Tahoe, California. But then Midway was given the difficult task of having to take his already finished character model and changing it into something entirely original. Perfect. As for the other characters in the first Mortal Kombat game, you had Captain Karate, you had Girl Boss, you had Hat Thor, you had this ninja made out of ice cubes, and his arch nemesis, that ninja who's just busting ropes everywhere. You had Australian Terrorist, he has a robot eye, he throws lightsabers, he could turn into Sonic. As for the plot, I mean, looking at the first Mortal Kombat game now some 20 years and 10 games later, it's hilariously obvious how much they just didn't give a particular fuck about such meager earthly concepts like story and context. I mean, Raiden's actual in-game ending is just him blowing everybody up because he's a literal god competing in a fighting tournament against humans. The original Mortal Kombat storyline begins and ends with kill a wizard, okay bye. But lastly, we cannot talk about the original Mortal Kombat without mentioning its biggest contribution to gaming history. The block button. Mortal Kombat's biggest contribution was the block button, a feature so controversial it inspired the ESRB's creation. Oh yeah, also there's the fatality. This is my favorite Mortal Kombat from what I call the classic era. Everything in this game is just an improvement from the first one. More characters, more arenas, more storyline, better graphics. Remember Evil Wizard? Guess what? He's young now. He kicks ass. I want to suck his cock. We have 2 hat guys now. We got 3 new ninjas. 2 of them are my girlfriends and the other one is a dinosaur. Goro is a furry now. Also, since Midway realized that turning Mortal Kombat into a series would require at least some explanation as to why members of the US military keep regularly engaging in hand-to-hand combat with dinosaur people, there's something that actually resembles a storyline this time around. So Mortal Kombat is a formality of war. It's a fighting tournament set in place by primordial deities known as the Elder Gods. In the last game, Liu Kang kicked Shang Tsung's ass. In this game, the Emperor of Outworld, Genghis Khan, is super fucking pissed. And so he decides to hold the next tournament in Outworld instead of Earthrealm. And secretly, he plans to assassinate all of Earthrealm's warriors during their visit. One last memorable addition to the series were the friendships, this sarcastic tongue-in-cheek alternative to fatalities. So if your mom ever complained about the game being too violent, you could just be like, no, mom, look, we're friends now. She made him a little cake. Look, he's dancing now. He's doing a little funny dance. He's doing a little disco. He's doing that funny little disco dance. He's doing that funny little disco dance. He's disco dancing, doing that funny little disco. Funny little man doing a funny little dance. Funny little man doing a funny little disco dance. Mortal Kombat! Guess what? It's more Mortal Kombat, and this time,
there's bombs in it.
After getting his ass kicked, Shao Kahn went and merged Outworld with another realm, Edenia, between the events of the last game and this game, and now he's revived Edenia's dead queen, Sindel, whose corpse was actually in Earthrealm, and now since she's been revived in Earthrealm, he's able to now merge Outworld and Earthrealm in order to claim his dead queen. Don't think too hard about the logic or you'll have an aneurysm. This isn't just a fighting tournament anymore, but an entire invasion angle, and the arenas really do a lot to reflect that. People are fighting in the streets, they're fighting in the subways, they're fighting on the rooftops and on the bridges. Motherfuckers even be fighting each other in line at the bank. Add to that some new monsters and robots now. Johnny Cage is dead. Jax had his arms ripped off and replaced with baseball bats. This cop killed a centaur with his gun. And there's really just a lot here that adds to that sense of this being a full-scale invasion happening. It's a fresh twist on a series that could have easily just copy-pasted the same successful formula it had established in the previous 2 games. And speaking of a fresh twist, everyone has a persona in in this game. Animalities were, like friendships, an alternative to fatalities, which would see your fighter turning into an animal and then doing an animal-related fatality. And they ran on this weird-ass logic that just didn't have any basis in our reality. Liu Kang turned into a dragon in the last game, so he has to turn into a dragon in this game, right? Yes. What about Reptile? I'm guessing he turns into some kind of reptile, right? No. Monkey! What about Scorpion? His name is Scorpion. He has to turn into a scorpion, right? No. Shiva is the one who turns into a scorpion. Okay, then what does Scorpion turn into? Well, that's simple. If my birth is the #1 most significant event to have happened in 1997, then the release of Mortal Kombat 4 is the #2 most significant event. It's all in 3D now, even though the fighting mechanics still mostly resemble a 2D fighting plane, but that's okay, you can throw swords now. Jean-Claude Van Damme has a gun now, you can play Ring Around the Rosie and oops, there he goes. Jeff Bezos is a character now, and he can do this. Unlike most 2D games that made the transition into 3D, Mortal Kombat 4 actually managed to keep the spirit of the original Mortal Kombat intact, and the game plays like you'd want it to. Over-the-top zany characters doing over-the-top zany moves. Storyline-wise, Liu Kang is basically the Heracles of this mythology now. He saved the Earthrealm 3 times in a row, beating Shang Tsung once and Shao Kahn twice. But in this game, he faces his toughest enemy yet, the God of Bones. See, basically everyone in Outworld kinda looked at each other and realized how unfair it was that Earthrealm had an actual real immortal all-powerful god on their team, and then they all decided they should probably get one of those too. And so Earthrealm is being invaded again, but instead of the army being led by a fucking Mad Max cosplayer this time, it's being led by an actual real immortal all-powerful god. So, the God of Bones versus the God of Blue Eco, Outworld versus Earthrealm, Captain Karate versus Jeff Bezos. Who do you think wins? It's Earthrealm. Earthrealm wins again. Earthrealm wins again because Liu Kang is like Goku, but in real life. So if part 1 was just a fighting tournament, and part 2 is a fighting tournament where the host is attempting to assassinate you, and part 3 is the invasion of Earthrealm, and then part 4 is the invasion of Earthrealm by an actual god, then how will this new Mortal Kombat raise the stakes?
Liu Kang is dead.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're...
So yeah, Jeff Bezos and the Evil Wizard teamed up, and together they finally managed to kill the decade-long survivor of Earthrealm. I remember, even as a child, I just loved this shit. What better way to come back from a 5-year hiatus than to kill off your main character? And I mean, like, he's for real dead. You can't even play as him in this game, that's how dead he is. He's like Uncle Ben level dead. This game also has my favorite roster of all the Mortal Kombat games. Jax is back, Scorpion is back, Sonya is back, Kung Lao is back, but he's not wearing his hat, so I'm calling the police. Reptile is looking more dinosaur than ever. Draman is this crazy zombie who just escaped from hell. He's got this cool rotting corpse aesthetic, literally throwing flies off his corpse at people. He's got a fucking Dark Souls boss weapon for a right hand. Baraicho's just farting and burping and puking everywhere and doing goddamn front flips across the screen. Who designed this man? Rogue the Bat appears as a guest character, and on top of all the new characters, the gameplay has just been completely transformed in this one. Every character has 3 fighting styles now, 2 melee and 1 weapons based, meaning you can just go all balls out crazy technical with your strategies, which, I mean, is really just a blessing for an elite masterclass strategist such as myself. They put Tetris in this one. Tetris is here. They put Tetris in it. Someone at Midway literally said there just ain't enough Tetris in that there Mortal Kombat. Also chess. Mortal Kombat Deception was to Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance what Mortal Kombat 2 was to Mortal Kombat 1. What I mean by that is that Midway essentially realized they had a winning formula here, and rather than try to change what wasn't broken, they just built on top of the previous game's foundations. The combat systems are almost exactly the same, but now there's more fighters and everyone has more fatalities, and stage fatalities have made a glorious return. Conquest mode isn't just a glorified tutorial anymore, it's got an actual story to it, it's open world, there's even side side quests and shit, you can find some ham. It's a lot better than anyone actually expected it to be, even if you do have to play as the most goddamn stupid protagonist of all time, dumb bitch Shuchenko, and that's not even a joke, that's just his real name. Further on, Midway even doubled down on the story of the previous game. Since the villains won in the last title and awoke an undead army, that undead army's undead general, the Dragon King, has also been accidentally resurrected simultaneously by none other than dumb bitch Shuchenko. So now the Dragon King, having come back to life and coming to reclaim his army, single-handedly kills Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, and Raiden right there in the opening cutscene in front of God and everybody. Of course, Raiden, being a deity and all, actually does respawn, but he's evil now, corrupted with anger over humanity's foolishness. And as for Liu Kang, who was once the poster child Mary Sue martial arts master, his soulless corpse has been resurrected as an evil zombie that's just running around the world and eating people. But don't worry about losing your favorite heroes, no. See, Midway had the foresight to replace Liu Kang and Raiden with one brand new hero that everybody would just love. Dumb bitch Shuchenko. Mortal Kombat Armageddon's storyline is quite nominally about Armageddon itself. Basically, the Elder Gods are sick and goddamn tired of watching these wushu superheroes blast each other with Destructo discs every other Tuesday. So they put a big fuck-off pyramid in the middle of an Edenian desert, brought everyone back to life, and then said, fuck it, whoever can kill the Human Torch gets to become God. So yeah, this game is the one where Midway made contact with God herself, and we're given the idea of putting every single character from every single Mortal Kombat game into a single game. And you also get to make your own character in this game, which is actually pretty in-depth given what it is. Make a skelly boy with a cool hat and a hook hand. Make a new ninja, he's orange, his name is Tagarine. Conquest makes a return here, and instead of dumb bitch Shuchenko as the main character, we get a slightly less stupid main protagonist, oversleeping late for work ass Taven, who is basically just if Jesus Christ were to sleep in too late and miss the rapture. This is actually my favorite Conquest. It's a lot more linear than Deceptions, but on a personal level, I just like it more. There's some great set pieces in here, running around the helicopter, chopping people in half with a lightsaber, running through a Sub-Zero Ninja Warrior obstacle course. It's the sort of over-the-top, overindulgent power fantasy what I expect from every Mortal Kombat game. I guess the biggest problem with this game is when you have a roster of 60 plus characters, you gotta cut some corners. So unfortunately, everyone plays the same, everyone feels the same, and most unfortunately of all, everybody has the exact same fatalities. Sure, Midway may have described this new system as a create your own fatality selling point, but really it's just a cleverly disguised, everyone has the same fatality system. Which makes sense when you think about it, because if everyone were to have been focusing on how to make all the characters feel unique and play unique, then who the fuck would have been focusing on the Mario Kart mode? Mortal Kombat is the best thing Midway has ever given us. Mortal Kombat is what happens when love falls in love. Mortal Kombat is what happens when Jesus accepts himself into his own heart. Mortal Kombat is what happens when Batman takes off his mask to reveal that he was you the whole time, and the Joker.
Mortal Kombat! Police, get what you fucking deserve! Mortal Kombat!
Realizing that it's hard to continue a fighting game series when you've killed off your entire roster, NetherRealm decided to do a hard reboot of the Mortal Kombat universe, starting back from the very first games and taking the series back to its 2D fighting arena roots. So the reboot is not just a reboot, but it's also a clever little remake of Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. In the storyline, Shao Kahn actually wins Armageddon, and right before he kills Raiden, Raiden uses the last bits of his ambiguous god magic to send a warning back in time to an alternate version of himself way the fuck back in Mortal Kombat 1, tasking his previous self to literally prevent the entirety of the Mortal Kombat storyline. Now this is brilliant for many reasons. First off, I mean, the antagonist won. He killed all the characters, took over the universe, became a god. What better option is there than to end the story once and for all and start over with a new one? Secondly, seeing as how the first three games had plots that are about as deep as a pancake, it makes sense to just remake all three of them at once and redo the storylines together, combining them into a story that meets the expectations of modern video games. And lastly, by revisiting the 2D games, it made the switch back to a 2D fighting arena a very natural decision, while the switch to a 2D arena probably would have been welcomed regardless. Making the change while revisiting the 2D titles was definitely perfect timing. And fourthly, the Solnado is big. If Mortal Kombat 2 is my favorite game from the classic era and Deadly Alliance is my favorite game from the 3D era, then X is my favorite game from the modern era. Everything just feels like an improvement from the reboots. The combat is much faster, much more action-packed, and more rewarding to play around with. There's a whole slew of new characters here. Some of them were just neat little one-off characters who probably won't ever return again, while others felt like instant mainstays and who just fit the cast just as well as the old classics. The storyline for this one takes place about 20 years after the events of the reboot, and no real great twist. Shinnok is the main villain this time around, which, seeing the main villain from part 4 come in after a reboot of parts 1 through 3, I mean, it makes sense logically, but when the game first came out, I can't pretend as if I wasn't disappointed. Don't get me wrong, I love Shinnecock, but in a game where you've already introduced so many cool new interesting characters, it just seems like there was definitely a missed opportunity to showcase a cool new interesting antagonist. Also, as cool as it is to see the Predator beat the ever-loving shit out of Jason Voorhees, the number of guest characters in this title, as well as how overwhelmingly popular they were, sparked this new era of Mortal Kombat that we currently exist in. Like some quasi Super Smash Brothers, but instead of there being Nintendo characters, we get a bunch of funny monster guys. And you know, it's only a matter of time before they run out of big names and start having to scrape the bottom of the barrel. I mean, how long is it gonna be until I get to see Stryker versus Matt Cordell? To be honest, I've become quite disillusioned with the newest game. I mean, the graphics are the sharpest they've ever been, the fighting systems are the tightest they've ever been, and on a technical level, this is the best Mortal Kombat game, and yet, I really just don't care. Like, there's just something about the new Mortal Kombat games that make me miss and crave the older, jankier, messier, stupider days. Makes me nostalgic for the flawed golden age of Mortal Kombat. I miss when a fatality was just ripping a fella's spine out and didn't take as goddamn long as a Final Fantasy VIII summon animation. I miss when characters died and stayed dead and when the storyline didn't get rebooted every time a character as much as got a nosebleed. I miss when the story was told through conquest mode instead of a 3-hour-long movie intermittently broken up by artificially difficult fights. I miss when the crypt wasn't a fucking 10-hour-long JRPG. I miss when there were all those little weird minigames like Mortal Kombat and Chess Combat and Puzzle Combat. I miss all the weird jankiness. I miss that little guy in the corner of the screen that pops out and says, whoopsie, or what the fuck does he, toasty, yeah, I miss that guy. Is it nostalgia? I mean, maybe. I may be pretentious, but I'm not so pretentious as to assume that I'm immune to nostalgia, but whatever it is, it's weird. When I play Civilization 6, I don't miss playing Civilization 3. When I play the newer Tekken games, I don't miss playing the older ones anymore. When I play Crusader Kings 3, I don't miss playing Crusader Kings 2. I will fucking fight anyone over this opinion. I am literally willing to die for it. I return to Mortal Kombat Deception at least once a year. However, I've never returned to the reboot once X came out, then I never returned to X once 11 came out, and I will probably never return to 11 once the inevitable 12 comes out. As cliched, as platitudinal, as gay as it may be to say, the earlier Mortal Kombat games just have a sort of magic to them that I feel is just missing from the more recent games. I mean, the modern day 3D models might be a lot more fuckable than any of their 2D sprites, but like, let's be honest, Shang Tsung has never been nearly as fuckable as he was in Mortal Kombat 2. I mean, no version has even come close since then. Same thing goes for Mortal Kombat 3 Sub-Zero. I am willing to fight anyone over this opinion as well. Mortal Kombat 3 Sub-Zero is the most fuckable Sub-Zero. So yeah. Wait, is that literally the last line in the script? Are we really ending the video like that?